So I thought I'd go into some more health stuff. So one of the things I thought I would talk about, and like I said, I know everybody knows this, but I want to talk about why it's so important. So, some kind of fitness, some kind of sport or the gym or something. And at the end of the day, I know this can be difficult with people who maybe have, from things they've been through and whatever, maybe they've put on more weight and they just feel very stuck and very uncomfortable. We've all been through stages where we've put on weight. We all go through stages where we don't feel as good about ourselves. Like every single person has gone through that on some degree, some more than others. And it's not up for anyone to make the decision as to how that person feels about it, right? But there's such an empowering thing that happens far more than just on a physical, like what you can see level. There's like, it builds this sort of momentum and it builds confidence within yourself. It changes your whole vibration from an emotional, spiritual point of view. And it's also that dedication to sticking to something. So after you're done with it, even if it's hard, in fact, it's better if it is, if it's challenging and afterwards you feel this level of achievement, because even though you didn't really feel like doing it that day or whatever, especially in the beginning, at the end of it, you feel good because you achieved it. You went and did it even though you didn't feel up to it. After a while, it becomes a habit. And this is what's interesting. Basically, in terms of astrology, there are certain placements. Like, obviously, the sixth house is going to give you a pretty strong indicator. Whatever you have in the sixth house is going to show you how you achieve or stick with lifestyle and health goals, what your obstacles are, what your challenges are, what gets in the way, again, whatever way you want to put it. But there are other areas too, but that's a good one to start. And I do have a health reading, so if that's something you're interested in, I can help you work all that out and what works for you, what you can stick to, whatever. But I think it's really important because what it does is it uses up like tension in the body, lactic acid. It uses up frustration, and it puts you into a focus of, well, it doesn't matter whether I feel like doing it or not, I'm going to go do it. And afterwards, like I said, you feel a level of achievement. Again, depending on what you're interested in, as long as you're moving your body. It's really important from a point of view, and this is something that I recognized when I was younger, but I didn't feel it. And it wasn't until I got older that I actually felt it in my body. When you walk past like a truly elderly person and they're kind of like stiff and their body is like permanently stuck in a position. Well, as you go through life, your bones, your structure gets stiffer. And like, even for myself, I've definitely felt that since I've gotten really into, fitness and stuff. I definitely don't feel as stiff. And then again, some of my other lifestyle choices have definitely helped with that. So I don't have that stiffness, and I won't when I'm older if I stick to what I'm doing. But that's my point. If you don't find a way to move your body and to keep yourself limber and flexible and active, one day that position that you sit in, you could very well get stuck in it, and then you can't move anymore once your body is, kind of solidified. It's almost like you become a statue in a way, which is kind of interesting. Even from a non-physical point of view, we go through life with certain, and again, this can get very complicated and it depends on what you believe, but I'm very open to a lot of different perspectives. And so I think there's some validity to what I'm about to say based on what I've seen of other people, my own experiences, and the research I've looked into. So keep an open mind. But what I think happens and what I've sort of seen in terms of research when it comes to this sort of stuff, our emotional state is very important. So if you, for instance, have gone through, and all of us have, some kind of traumatic experience, something that made you maybe feel bad about yourself, or, you have shame or embarrassment, or, you just didn't like what happened. It can be anything. If you form an identity over that thing, over that experience, and then that identity somehow attaches because you believe it so strongly because of your feelings that are around it. It gets stored in the body in certain areas. Again, it depends. Like you can, I think there's like face mapping, which is more the Chinese approach. There's some other ones too, and I've just forgotten what they were. When I remember, I'll let you know in another video. Maybe I'll go into that. I think maybe it's somatic healing, I believe. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So that one is where basically what you go through, it can almost like change the shape of your body. And that's what starts to show. There's also things in terms of diet, like another really strong one is dairy, for instance, because it has high amounts of estrogen. When you sort of pass a certain age, if you haven't found a way to combat that and to stave it in some way, pretty much everybody ends up, male and female, with like a pregnant belly and kind of a, building breast tissue. Because of the estrogen, the body thinks that it's more feminine than what it is, right? So all these things start to form in the body over the years, because the more experiences you have, the more they solidify that original experience that formed the identity. And then it basically creates patterns of that one thing. And then it sort of becomes the thing that you think about yourself. And then your body reflects that. So I think that's why fitness is so important, not just from a physical point of view of how it looks, which of course will help. And it does make you feel better when you look in the mirror and you like what you see, as long as you're not being too critical. But I think you're less likely to be critical if you're achieving things. Everybody's different, I know that, and I'm not speaking for every single person that this is going to be a cure-all. I'm not saying that. But yes, there are individual things that are specific to us as individuals, and then there's also things as a collective, as a human, a human species. There are certain things that also connect us that we all do. And, from a physical, spiritual, emotional, mental perspective, all of these things leave imprints on the body. So that's why I think that movement, it helps keep you mobile from a physical point of view. It also helps the mind because it clears out. I find sometimes people can kind of overthink because the body is all overwhelmed and it's carrying too much stuff. So then it becomes overwhelmed and clouded inside, and it can get clouded and overwhelmed inside of the heart, the feelings and all these things, and everything gets wrapped up. And again, if you're in your head and you're not doing something to release it by those movements, it gets stored. And then, like I said, we form these experiences that then form an identity. And it's so hard to actually start to break these things down and see them for what they are, because it's probably been years of doing the same thing and then forming these identities. So where do you unpack that? Where do you begin? It's just not that simple. And you do kind of have to. That's one of the things I think I created there's like a self-love video, which kind of goes through some practical tips that are more generalized. Or I have a self-love reading where I could actually look at you personally, your personal chart, and tell you the areas that are a strength for you, that are very simple for you to see so that you can motivate yourself because you're good at those things, and the obstacles to help you overcome them. There's all kinds of things I can do to help you out with overcoming these challenges, and that's what I do. That's why I do everything that I do, to help the individual person, and then hopefully as a collective. That's my goal, my aim. Obviously, I do videos at TikTok. I do them at Instagram. I do them here. I've backed off on Facebook because I just don't find it to be... I probably should do a bit more of it, but I don't know. I find these platforms are a bit better, so I'm going to put my focus there. And then obviously I have the readings on all those places, so you can find them. But that's why I thought I would talk about it. It's, even if it's something that you... I don't know, like you don't think it's going to make much of a difference, and you just think, oh, I'm too past it now. It's too hard. You aren't. you don't have to just start going nuts. And in fact, I don't recommend it, especially if you're in a state where you're really not as fit as you want to be, and it's been a long time since you've done it and you've been hard on yourself for many years. Start slow, you know. Again, I can help you with that from an individual point of view if I can look at your chart and tell you what your obstacles are and whatever, like I said. But it's really important to make sure that you just start. Just do something. It doesn't matter. Just start. And then allow yourself to go through that process and watch how you change. Watch how it develops you. Watch how you build some self-esteem and some confidence, and and be proud of yourself because of what you achieved. It doesn't matter about other people. I think sometimes this is where we can get a bit stuck, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they understand. It doesn't matter if they support you. It doesn't matter if they're downright rude about it. It's not their life, okay? It's not their body. It's none of their business. So it's one of those, tune them out, make sure that you're around people who want to pep you up and support you. And then get away from the ones who want to pull you down, because they're going to be, it's always those though, Even I thought I'll give you an example. One of the platforms, I can't remember, somebody reached out to me. I don't like to name names or anything like that. It just isn't my vibe, but this is a good example. So I think it was said they made some sort of comment about me being older, right? In a negative way, I think they called me grandma or something like that, which is hilarious. But, I thought of it in these sort of terms. Now, I don't, it depends on how you want to deal with these sort of situations. Now, I know I'm not some old raggedy woman, so who cares? They can think what they want. They're probably younger. When I was younger, I probably thought people my age were a lot older. I mean, that's totally fine. Does that confirm what I am? No. And at the end of the day, I don't care, right? The thing that I find often happens with people who get kind of nasty, a lot of times they're not doing anything to improve themselves. Okay, that's just how it is. They're not. And maybe they're jealous, or they have animosity. Maybe they the whole idea of the fact that perhaps even though I'm older, maybe I'm more fit than they are, maybe I'm more attractive than they are in their head or whatever. You know what I mean? So they're trying to find a way to pull me down. That's what I think the universe does, or not necessarily the universe. Well, I think it's a partnership, but I think we're thrown these kinds of lessons to see how well we deal with obstacles. How determined are you to get what you want in life? Can you be pulled down by somebody's stupid comment who's not even doing anything? Will that derail your entire plan? If so, that's not good, right? That's not good. And then you go to reevaluate. Now, this person made this comment. Is it going to tear me down? Or is it going to stop me? No. No, it won't. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here for that kind of person. They wouldn't want to hear what I have to say anyway. I know I'm going into a lot of detail, but I just want to give you some examples to sort of show you it doesn't matter about other people. This is your life, your journey, and it's not about making other people happy or unhappy, right? You can't worry about that. They need to worry about themselves and what they're doing, or not. It's not your problem. So, hang out with people who want to empower you, who want to support you. Even if it's not anyone in your life, people like myself, or online, or just in general. If you find people who want to pep you up and support you, be around people like that. Be around people who have a life or working towards goals. Maybe not the exact life you want, but you can just admire what they're doing. That's the ticket. Be around people who are doing something. And then you become a person who does something too. This is what's amazing about that. It kind of creates a ripple effect. So I thought I would bring up some of those points to talk about and, get people thinking, get the things sort of clicking and bubbling. But yeah, I hope that's interesting. And of course, I'll come back to make more videos. And I do like talking about health here. It's good fun. So yeah, see you next time.